And we're back with another episode of B-Scar TV, and we have a very, very special guest, my man, Blake Ferguson, aka B, number 44 in your programs, number 1 in your hearts, long snapper for the Miami Dolphins, among many other things. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
My first experience in Hard Rock Stadium was one that I remember because of you, actually. It was towards the second half of the game. They were panning from fan to fan, and they had like a survey of questions for each of the fans that the camera was on. And one of the questions was, who was your favorite player on the team? And so this kid, it was, his favorite player was Jalen Waddle. And then, there was this guy and his favorite player was maybe Devontae Parker or something. And then it got to this woman, and I'll never forget, she had these glasses on, and like, this is a vivid memory for me. And her favorite player was Tua and Blake Ferguson. And this is before we knew each other very well. It was early on, it was preseason, my first year with the Dolphins. I was like, Blake Ferguson, is that the long snapper? It's like, this dude, man, has reached the holy grail for every other player who's not scoring touchdowns, of being a fan's favorite player. So you've had a warm embrace here in Miami. How has that experience been? Has it been like that from the beginning?
I feel like that it was from day one. Dolphins fans embraced me. I was fortunate enough to be drafted to the Miami Dolphins, and so that meant a lot for the organization to use a draft pick on a long snapper. They took a big chance on me coming in, and the fan base was behind it 100%. What I do in my profession is try to fly under the radar. And being a specialist, you are usually not known unless you're messing up. If they know your name, that's usually because you did something wrong.
Right.
But what I have tried to do in my time here in Miami, and even before I got to Miami, was try to make an impact on people off the field. And so what I try to do in the community, and just through my social media and through my podcast and all kinds of different avenues, is make an impact on people for the right reasons, because what I do on the field is such an under the radar type of position. And so for the Dolphins fans to stand behind me 100% has been unbelievable.
Yeah. For our football fans, or maybe for our non-football fans out there who may be listening, describe what you mean by your position flying under the radar. Like, what is the job of a long snapper?
I mean, when I'm on the field for punts or field goals, I'm literally the one snapping the ball to the holder or to the punter, and so people don't usually ever even watch that part. Right. A lot of times the TV broadcast doesn't even show that part. Right. They just show, they're showing whatever the quarterback that just got sacked on third down. They're showing him, and then all of a sudden they snap to the punter, like the punter's already hit the ball. Like, he doesn't even, they don't show the snap. And so a lot of times I'm never even noticed, unless the ball goes flying over the punter's head or some sort of terrible thing happens. Specialists, we have this kind of sniper mentality of you have one shot to do what you do really, really well. Guys on offense and defense have 3 shots at it, and a lot of times more than that for 10, 12 play drives. We have one shot to go out there and, snap the ball into a hole the size of a mailbox and do it every single time you go out there. So that is what I do, and I try to do it without people ever knowing that I was on the field.
Yeah, I feel that. Sniper mentality. I like that. So with that said, if somebody is watching the game for you, you know that they're committed. You know that there's love there, because they might not even see. There's some snaps they're not even seeing.
Yeah.
How did you become a long snapper? Just like, let's go back to, whether it was elementary school, middle school. At what point did you decide long snapping is what I'm going to do?
I think so. I started doing it in, I guess I was in like 7th grade, and I have my older brother to thank for getting me into it. He is now the long snapper in Buffalo. He's been there for 7 years, but he started doing it when he was in like 8th or 9th grade. I was in 6th grade at the time, and he started, doing it just because the guy on his team that was doing it got hurt, and they were like, "Can anybody do this? Like, can somebody?" And Reed wasn't playing a whole lot on offense or defense at the time.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Shoot, I'll give it a shot. I want to get on the field somehow."
Right.
So he started learning how to do it, and he went to some camps, learned from a guy named Chris Rubio who snapped at UCLA, Pac-12 represented.
Okay, there we go.
And so he started learning how to do it, started getting some college attention. He got offered from LSU, Tennessee, and San Diego State, which for a long snapper to get 3 scholarship offers is huge. And so I'm seeing all this going on, and I'm like, shoot, I'm not going to be the next Mike Gesicki. Like, I'm not, this freak athlete with unbelievable hands. And I was playing tight end, defensive end at the time. Not going to be the next Brennan Scarlett out here. So I had to find my niche, and I was like, I'm gonna try my hand at long snapping. It's clearly has a niche market, and so I started doing it. Reed helped me learn, and I kind of followed the same track of going to camps and the recruiting process and all of that stuff that he did, and it's turned into a really, really cool career path for both of us. But it kind of happened by accident because the long snapper who was on Reed's team got hurt, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's interesting, and I think that you have an advantage that you were playing tight end, you were playing defensive end, and you're a good athlete. I think there's, especially historically, long snappers around the league that weren't the most athletic, and it seems like there's a trend towards like more and more athletic long snappers. Would you say you see that around the league?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's a result of more and more people learning how to do it. That to be competitive and to get the best looks, you have to be a good athlete. You have to be, for recruiting purposes, you have to make really good grades. Like, there are too many people doing this now for you to be a bad athlete and to not make good grades and to be, trouble off the field. Colleges will just take somebody else. And the same goes even higher up as you get into the NFL. It's even harder now than it used to be, I think.
Yeah. So almost like it's a result of it just being a more competitive landscape now.
Yeah. Totally, and you're seeing a long snapper get drafted every year now.
Wow.
There were 2 last year get drafted. Schools are offering scholarships to long snappers now more than they ever have. You look at 10, 12 years ago, you were lucky to get a scholarship offer, whereas now the top 70 schools in the country are offering a long snapper a scholarship.
Damn. That's nuts.
So I think that there's just more value placed on the position.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to just be an afterthought. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think the value there for me, and as you're saying, like a lot of fans or people just if you're just a kind of casual viewer of the sport, you kind of, they can go missed. Like, how important the operation from snap to hold to field goal results in either winning games or losing games. A lot of times games are just determined by, less than 3 points, right? Yeah. So take away that field goal or bad hold, bad snap.
Right.
And that's a loss instead of a win.
Yeah.
When you were coming up and, going through your, when you had decided to make the transition to long snapper in high school and then going through your college days, was there, what were like the specs or kind of the milestones that you were like, okay, if I can do this, if I could snap the ball at this speed, or I could run this 40, then I'm able to become a professional long snapper.
Yeah, I think size has a lot to do with it, and I've been lucky. I have a good frame for being a long snapper. There are others, that have played the position that haven't been as gifted physically. You look at a guy like John Weeks, who's 5'9", maybe 5'10",
Weeksy.
but he's been doing it forever. Like he's had to overcome so many front office and coaches and all kinds of people around the league that basically turned him down and said, no, we don't want you because you're 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah.
Whereas they look at a guy like me and they're like, oh, he's 6'3", 240 pounds. That's all that's all we need. And so I think that was the first. Yeah. That was the first thing was getting in the weight room and making sure my body physically is in a place where I know that I can hold my own at the college and at the NFL level. Yeah. I think snapping wise, it's so there are no metrics on snapping. There's like snap speed, but at this level and at the college level, that doesn't mean a whole lot because everybody can snap the ball fast enough to. If you're playing at the college level, you can snap fast enough that you don't ever have to worry about the op time. You're not lollipopping it to the punter like you see sometimes in high school games where they just toss a lineman in there to snap the ball and you pray that it gets to the punter.
Like you're not even going between your legs.
Yeah,
you're like
right, exactly. Or you got the quarterback in there just throwing it one-handed. And so for me there's this huge gray area of like, okay, what do college coaches want to see? I'm coming out of high school and I'm like, okay, how do I put myself in the best position to be successful and get recruited as the #1 long snapper in the country? Accuracy, consistency, ability to cover downfield and, be in the returner's face with the gunners. Because in high school and college, you don't have a protection responsibility like you do in the NFL. You just snap and run downfield and try to add yourself to the coverage. But I think that those are the things that you can't quantify those things. You can't quantify how often the long snapper is putting the ball on the punter's hip every single time. That consistency, there is no stat for that. And so, a lot of times it's just how do you get your film in front of the eyes of the right people so that they will recognize and see how talented you are, because they're not just looking at 247 Sports, the top 100 wide receivers in the country and the stats and all that kind of stuff. And so I think there was a huge push for me I kind of recruited myself. Like I had to put myself in front of coaches and say, hey, here I am. Like I know that I'm one of the top long snappers in the country. I'm one of the most talented. This is what I can do. And from there, it's up to them to see that talent.
Yeah. That's a refreshing pivot, I think, than how a lot of recruiting is done today. Like the tape basically tells the story for a long snapper because there are no metrics, right? Or there's not as many metrics with it, snap speed or accuracy. Like you have to turn on the tape to see, okay, how consistent is this snapper? How many times is he down the field in the returner's face? Maybe he doesn't get that tackle, but he's the reason why the gunners or the coverage was able to get that tackle. Versus a lot of times, I think that offers go out based on, okay, how fast is this guy's 40? He runs 4.4, but he can't play a lick of ball. You know what I mean? Like his routes are terrible, but the guy's fast. So here goes this offer, or here even goes this invite to camp. Or you passed the look test. You're 6'5", 320 pounds. You're jacked up. But you don't use your hands. And the tape would tell you that, but the metrics, tell a whole different story. So I think it's an interesting pivot for the long snapper position. Eventually, you ended up at LSU. You were highly touted, recruited.
Hardly.
You got the tape in front of the eyes of the people who needed to see it, and the LSU Tigers was the place for you. What was your experience there at LSU? You had a successful career there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change a thing about my experience from the time that I started getting recruited to LSU. It was super early. I was like a sophomore in high school, going into my junior year when they offered me, and that was like the earliest a snapper's ever been offered. Like that was, a lot of other positions don't even get offers that early.
Yeah.
And so, they took a chance on me. And my parents told me, they were like, we want you to go to every school and check out every university, every option that's in front of you. They were like, LSU was like the first of all of the visits that I took that summer going into my junior year. I had a bunch of camps lined up. Went to Stanford, beautiful campus. I went out to Oregon, and we were kind of talking before about visiting just that part of the country. One of the most beautiful parts of the country I've ever seen.
The freshest air.
Yes, the freshest air in the world, no doubt. But from that point in time, all the way through my career at LSU, went through a coach getting fired, a full rebuild of the roster, to ultimately winning a national championship. And then getting drafted after that. I wouldn't change a thing about it, because there were so many highs and lows, and just kind of this roller coaster ride of emotions and experiences in my time at LSU, that I learned so much about myself, and I learned so much about how to be a teammate. And I think it prepared me for the next level more than I ever realized it would. So I when you ask about my experience at LSU, just from a bird's eye view of it, wouldn't change a thing about it.
The Natty and the draft pick, you're a proud Tiger.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you look at that sort of last year of my time at LSU going into the NFL, that was so we played the national championship January of 2020, and then I went right into, I think I played in the Senior Bowl like the next week, and then the Combine like 4 weeks after that, and then the world shut down.
Wow.
So I went from playing a national championship football game in front of 70,000 fans, most of them being LSU fans because it was in New Orleans, to my very next game was in front of nobody.
That's crazy.
In Gillette Stadium.
Wow.
My first NFL game, no preseason games. Week 1, we're in Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, and there's not a soul in the stands besides like security. And that was just bizarre.
Yeah.
It was so odd. But it really put it into perspective, like that the fans are such a big reason why we do what we do. And it just, you played it that season. You know how odd it was not having fans there, and just the energy and the juice that they bring. We had 13,000 fans at the Dolphins games. We had 25% full, but a lot of stadiums weren't lucky enough to have that. And so I think for me, it put it into perspective, that we do what we do because there are people out there who love coming to cheer on the Miami Dolphins or whoever it is their team is. But a lot of times we can get lost in that, and it just becomes white noise to us. So
until it's gone.
Until it's not there, and you're
right.
we could hear Cam Newton on the other sideline like talking smack to us. It was so odd. It felt like a scrimmage for like 7 of those games that year because there was just nobody there.
It felt like practice.
It really did.
Sounded like practice.
It really did. And so, but yeah, it was. You don't realize it until there's nobody there.
Yeah. Every team that I've been on, really since college, the specialists, being kicker, punter, long snapper, have always gotten a little bit of a bad rap. Because while the team is out there grinding at practice and doing the hitting drills or hitting on the sled or whatever, the specialists sometimes are in the indoor facility, kick-ins, long snapping. Meetings are a little bit shorter. And then sometimes there's just like this kind of weird, like you called weird maybe. Maybe specialists just have a different, a little different personality.
Yeah.
Can you set the record straight for everybody listening and watching? Is that an earned stereotype or?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. Okay. The word I usually use is specialists are quirky.
Quirky.
Specifically the punters and kickers. You have to be able to go out there and have that kind of pressure at the end of a game and to operate every time just at an unbelievably high level. You have to be a little bit crazy. Just like being a punt returner. Like you have to be a little bit crazy to stand back there with guys running at you full speed and you're not even looking at them. You're looking up in the air, trying to catch a ball. So I think you're spot on with specialists are a little weird. And most guys would agree with you on that. Now from the practice point of view and the meetings thing, it's tough, man, because we play like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 plays a game. We watch those clips like in the special teams meeting and the team meeting. So we don't really have a whole lot to meet on, and it just makes for a lot of ping pong time and FIFA or whatever the game of choice. Thomas Morstead is a big cornhole guy, so we were tossing bags in the locker room a lot this training camp. But yeah, I mean, you have to make it fun. You have to enjoy being at work every single day. Now, I have seen other places throughout my career, videos and just stories of guys like grilling while they're at practice or something just dumb. Like you get done with the special teams periods and they're out there like grilling burgers for the team or something. But I've never personally been on a specialist crew like that to that extreme. But we do have fun. We are out there for the entire practice, but we only operate like 2 or 3 periods, and so we have to kind of find things to fill that extra hour with while we're out there at practice. So, whether it's out there cheering on one-on-ones, or whatever it is, but
or playing FIFA in the lounge.
I will say that every time we're out at practice, we stay out at practice the entire time.
Okay.
Meetings are a little bit of a different story.
Right. Because you watched the reps that you took at practice or the reps of the game.
Right. And usually those are, we see those in the special teams meeting. Every clip that, it gets watched in the special teams meeting and sometimes in the team meetings as well. So by the time we're done, like we've already seen all the clips. And so it's like we don't really have that much to talk about.
Yeah, that's real.
So
makes sense. Another game that I found that specialists have spent a lot of time on.
Yes.
It's the game of golf.
Yes.
A game that I personally have not fully mastered yet. I am still trying to shoot under 100. If I can get under 100, I'll have reached a personal milestone.
That's a great goal.
And quarterbacks I've found are also very good at golf. What position would you say on the field is the best golfers from the teams that you've been on?
I think across the league, kickers have to be the best.
Yeah,
have to be the best, and I think it's a result of it being a very similar like swing style and just like it's so technical that once you have that muscle memory down of what a perfect golf shot feels like or a kicking swing feels like, you have it down and you can go out there and play really well and score well. But golf, I don't know what it is about specialists and quarterbacks, but everywhere that I've played, college and now in Miami, the quarterbacks and the specialists enjoy playing some golf. And I will be the first to tell you, I'm not great at playing. My dad will mop the floor with me in golf. But I love getting out there, and I love hitting the white ball around. And Jason Sanders is one of the best golfers that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Just naturally talented. He can hit the ball a mile, and he hits it straight every single time. Don't get it. But yeah, the specialists love playing around a golf, and we're fortunate because we're in a place here in South Florida where there's golf courses everywhere. You go up to, I think Palm Beach, up like an hour north of here, is like the golf capital of the United States. There's 36 golf courses within like a mile and a half or something crazy. But yeah, we enjoy getting out there.
Yeah, I think it's something with for kickers, for sure, it's a similar movement, but also just a repeated movement or action over and over, right? It's just something that kickers, long snappers, punters, quarterbacks are used to. That's their job, right? And they have to make little minor adjustments, right? If a kick is off just a couple of inches to the right, they miss, right? So they have to make an adjustment in their movement, in their body, and okay, I need to fix this swing to now hit it through the uprights. Or I need to fix this throw, my elbow in or whatever. And being able to make those minor adjustments, I think, is that's a skill in itself. And I think it translates to the game of golf.
No doubt. I think you're spot on. The phrase that I always use in snapping, and it is the same for kicking and punting and even golf, is an inch here is a foot back there.
Right.
If my thumb is in the wrong spot when I grab the football, it could mean, if it's a half inch off here, it could mean the ball is, at the punter's feet back there. Because it's just different. And so the same goes for kickers with, if their shin angle is off a little bit, just the smallest little bit, the ball could, hook wide left or something crazy. But being able to adjust that the slightest little bit that is a skill. I think so.
Yeah, and then just to even to notice it. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing. When you're snapping, right, you basically snap the same distance, right? Maybe give or take a couple inches depending on the punter. But through a season, you're typically snapping to the same punter, the same holder, right? And it's it is the same movement from really the beginning of your career as long snapping up until now. How difficult has it been not to get complacent with just I've mastered this, I don't really need to work on my craft. I can snap it back there and I can get it there in the amount of time it needs to, I'm good. Right. But I'm assuming as soon as that is fixed in your mind, that's probably when your career starts to end.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to stay diligent?
That's a good question. For me, I've always kind of operated with a chip on my shoulder. That's just my mentality towards everything that I do. I want to be the greatest at whatever it is. I'm uber competitive, and so my brain just won't allow me to be complacent. I just can't do it because I know that the second that I am not working, there is somebody else that is working, and they're gaining on me. And so I try to operate with that mentality every single day that I go out there with a football or hit the weight room or in conditioning or whatever it is. But the skill that I actually do, the actual piece of long snapping, you get to this level and everybody can snap a football really, really well. Yeah. It's the stuff outside of that is important at this level, being able to protect. A lot of guys come into the league and they can snap a football and hit the punter at the waist every single time in the same spot. but can you get in front of Matt Judon when he's, giving you a swim move?
Yeah.
That's the important part now, because in college, like we talked about earlier, in high school, college, you don't have a protection responsibility. You just snap the ball and run down the field. In the NFL, nobody can leave the line of scrimmage except the gunners until the ball is punted. And so because of that, I have to block. I have to add myself to the protection and make sure the punt doesn't get blocked. And so that means that the punt rush team across the line of scrimmage for me is going to try to take advantage of me because I have my head between my legs and I have to snap the ball first. That's where it gets tough. And so I don't think that you can ever get complacent with that, because there's so much more to long snapping than even I realized coming into the league. Like I struggled my rookie year because I just hadn't done it before. I hadn't had to block anybody before. And so learning that and still trying to perfect that daily that's my next task. And so I'm always kind of chasing whatever that next thing is, and I refuse to let myself get complacent because of that.
The position is a lot more nuanced than people realize. And I think that goes for every position on the football field, and probably every job that anyone does, regardless of it, if it's in sport, if it's in football or outside of ball. One thing that I've kind of learned, especially through this training camp and started to think more about, is the actions that we take today or tomorrow, oftentimes we don't see the effects of those until weeks or maybe even months down the line, right? The way that you eat, the way that you train, you don't see, you do core on today, you don't see a six-pack tomorrow. Right, you eat well today. You might feel, you might feel the short-term effects of eating, well, and your energy and your mood. But if you eat bad, consistently over the days, then you'll see that a month from now, right? And I think that from a training standpoint, it's like that too. It's the consistent efforts compounded over time, manifest themselves, in the long term.
Totally.
And I think as we approach our work, whether it's for me, setting an edge or pass rushing, working on these things daily, yes, I want to be better at it tomorrow, but really I want to, master this over the season and next season and the season after that,
I think that's a great point, because that's, I think, what separates the best of the best athletes, and really any occupation, but the best of the best athletes are the ones who are willing to show up every single day, do the monotonous, minute little things differently than everybody else, and not get sick of it, and just keep showing up, because I won't probably see the results today. I probably won't see the results tomorrow, but in 90 days, I'm going to see totally different results than I am getting right now. And I think that the world that we live in is just this fast-paced, instant gratification. I want to see results now. I want to lose, 15 pounds in 5 days, and I want to, feel my best now, and I want to look my best now. It doesn't work that way. And so the best of the best athletes are the ones that are going to be able to keep showing up and keep doing the tough things, even when you're not seeing the results right now. Because that down the road, it will eventually pay off for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the world doesn't work that way, in this fast pace, frame of mind that do something now, see a result, right after. The world just doesn't work that way. You plant a seed in the soil, it takes months, years to reap the fruit of that. Right?
We've been spoiled, I think, with the rise of all this technology that we have in this age, that we are spoiled getting things so fast. Food is delivered in 10 minutes to my house when order it on my phone, and I don't have to cook it. I don't have to do anything. It just shows up on my doorstep.
Right.
Amazon, it's anything that you could possibly want to buy is on your doorstep in 2 days, like max. And the world wasn't meant to live that way. Like we were not. Like you talk about you plant a seed. It's gonna grow over time, and an oak tree doesn't bloom and grow in 2 days. Like it's not. The world is not meant to operate that way.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that having that mentality of understanding patience and the constant grind and constantly showing up and constantly doing the hard things with the patience and knowing that at some point it'll pay off, is key.
A delayed gratification. I'm just going to transition a little bit to now, because I think there are a lot of kind of overlaps between how you approach things on the field and how we approach things off the field as well in some of our endeavors, right? And a lot of times there's not an overnight kind of success stories for things like podcasts or kind of how you engage on social media. For you, I'm going to be lucky enough to be a guest on After the Snap podcast.
Yes.
And you have shared with me that you're up to what, like 70 episodes now?
I think this week is like 69 or 70.
Sheesh.
I mean,
that's
commitment,
big time,
dude.
Bro.
It is taking a huge commitment.
And I imagine this same thing, the slow grind, and you don't see overnight success with those things. But like for you, specifically After the Snap, what has been the motivating factor to continue to do that?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the conversation that we were having before we started recording this. I think in sports, there's sort of this mentality towards using your platform and using every avenue to tell your story and be who you are. There's sort of this push towards that we're sort of seeing in sports, and I think what we have tried to do, my brother and I have tried to do with our podcast, is tell our own story, but also focus on the stories of the guys that we are in the locker room with every single day. Reed, is fortunate enough to play with a guy like Josh Allen, and I'm fortunate enough to play with a guy like Tyreek Hill. Those guys have stories that, people hear all about them on Good Morning Football and all these TV shows, but we want to tell the stories that people don't know. We want to tell the stories that of why they do what they do. Ask the real questions behind their grind and why they have become as successful as they have. We had Reggie Gilliam on last week from the Bills, and he just talked about his walk-on mentality that he's approached his entire football career with. He was a walk-on at Akron, and he was an undrafted player in Buffalo, and he's just had this sort of I'm going to get it any way I know how mentality, and that's the kind of stuff that we want to highlight on our podcast. And we've gotten unbelievable support from all the people that have listened to us, and we're super, super grateful for that. I know you guys are as well, for the people that listen to yours, because I don't think a lot of people realize how much time and resources have to be dedicated to it. And we certainly didn't when we got started. We didn't realize okay, this is not just an hour of time that we set aside each week to record this podcast. It's preparation for making sure the schedule is set so that whoever you're interviewing is going to be there on time, and that it all works out timing wise, and also building interviews and having all the content ready to go, and having your research done so you are informed when you're talking about different things. It's a lot more than even I realized when I got into it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, and having the right team, beside you and helping with shooting the content or chopping up the content.
For sure.
we have to lean on them. And I think your point about the media and how you're kind of you're an offshoot from traditional media outlets, and we are an offshoot from different traditional media outlets. And I think a lot of times the media has a storyline, and they start with a storyline, and then they kind of like find interviews to fit that. So there's somewhat of an agenda behind the interview, right? Instead of the approach of like, let me start with the person and find out about them and what makes them tick, what's important to them
from there.
Yeah, what's their highlights.
Yeah.
Instead of like what I think traditionally it's been is, I have this story, like I have this thing. Now let me pull out some lines that kind of like fit that, and then we'll call it good. Right. So I think I commend you and Reed for telling those stories, because I think it's really important for us as people, and especially as athletes, to tell the stories that are close to our hearts.
I think one of the hardest parts about what we have done is the growth side of things, and we have been doing this for 69, 70 episodes. And there was a time for episodes 20 through, 50 that we were getting the same number of views, same number of listeners. We're like, okay, this is like, it's like plateaued. How do we, like, what are we doing wrong? And there's sort of this check to your confidence in like, are we doing something wrong? Are we actually good at this? Do people not want to, listen to us anymore?
Yeah.
But that's where you have to go back to that competitive mindset of what can I do to be different? How am I gonna make myself unique? What does make us unique? How do we leverage that into showing the world, okay, this is who we are, this is what we're doing with this podcast. This is the next thing that we're going to add to it to make this an even greater experience when you see us on YouTube, when you listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. That's the sort of go get it mentality that you have to have towards work in general, as an athlete, as a podcaster, as a whatever it is what's that next step that I'm going to take to add to my game? How can I get better? How can I, put away the shot to my confidence that I just took and say, okay, what can I do to make myself better?
Yeah, no, that's real. And I think that's a lesson in life, really.
100%.
It was like, you take those shots to your confidence, you have a vision of something in which what you want something to be, which I think is important before like even taking the first step at times. And when it doesn't become that, and through the journey of it not becoming that immediately, right, you take those shots, and then the thoughts of doubt start to creep into your mind, right? That the negativity of like, maybe people don't want to listen, maybe my content isn't as engaging as I want it to be. But then that's when you lean into like, okay, what's the experience for my viewer? How well am I pass rushing? Maybe I'm not, I don't have the sack numbers that I want to see, but like, let me get back to my grind, to my craft, whether that's how the content is coming out, whether that's, whatever if you're writing a book, whether that's, rushing the passer. And I think, for me, one of the lessons that I've learned in my life that's helped me on the football field and off is that like that vision is the outcome. And I think it's important because it kind of gives you like a North Star to work towards, but trying to detach yourself as much as you possibly can from that and like be laser focused on the process, right? And on the journey, and like, and having the confidence to say, I know that I can play ball. I know I'm unique. I'm special in this way, and focusing on that and whatever you're trying to create, whether it's the best football player that you can possibly be, or the best podcast, like just focusing on that, and then the outcome, it'll be what it'll be. And typically with consistent work, like usually that vision comes to fruition.
Yeah.
If history has taught us anything, like it's the most consistent of people who reach their goals.
That's right. Yeah, I think, and just to sort of put a bow on that thought, I can't remember who posted it. I saw an Instagram story like last night, and it was this quote that said, if you keep getting up, you can't lose. And I think that's just the sort of mentality that you have to approach life with. Is if I keep getting up, I can't be defeated. I cannot, there is nothing that you can do to break me if I just keep getting up, keep getting out of bed, keep just putting your nose to the grindstone and just chasing after those goals that you have, the goals that you write on your mirror. I still have my goals written on my mirror. I do it every year. That is how you win every single time.
Hey, I like that, bro. You keep getting up, you can't be defeated.
That's right.
I like that.
Shout out to whoever posted that on their story. I don't know who it was.
Shout out to that person. So we have some B-Scar TV questions for you. What is a TV show or movie you're embarrassed to admit you love?
The Proposal. It's not super embarrassing, but it's definitely like a chick flick movie.
Ryan Reynolds?
Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
it's definitely a chick flick, but I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds kills me. He is so funny.
Yeah, he's really good.
But that's probably one that I would be, maybe not. I don't know if that's
fair.
super embarrassing.
That's fair. It's a rom-com.
Yeah, definitely a rom-com chick flick movie.
Who is the best person or profile to follow on Instagram?
Can I go TikTok account?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Isaac Rochelle TikTok
Okay.
account because he is everything that you strive to be as a NFL TikToker. He is prime content. I don't know how he puts out as much content as he does, but he kills it.
Isaac Rochelle has done a good job over his whole career, really from every platform. I remember seeing Isaac Rochelle first. He had a podcast with the Chargers. It was him and the kicker.
Okay.
I forget what they called it though. I'll have to go check on that. But they had a podcast and they would bring guys on after practice or coaches or just.
We need to start doing that with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
We've got the Dolphin, Travis has his Drive Time podcast, but we need to get a Dolphins player podcast.
That'd be dope. If you could trade places with any of your teammates for a day, who would it be and why?
Keon Crossan. I think it'd be so cool to run 23 miles an hour. I think my top that I've ever hit in practice or a game has been 18 miles an hour or something, which for a long snapper really isn't that bad.
Solid. Yeah.
But I think it'd be really cool to be able to run 23 miles an hour for a day.
That dude Keon, he can skate. Which teammate would you want to swap closets with?
B-Scar. B-Scar, you have one of the most unique
Talk about it.
It's just you have your own swag that you do not stray from at all, and I respect it big time.
Appreciate it.
You wear some of the coolest stuff, vintage hats, vintage just shirts and all that kind of stuff. I don't know where you find these things, but definitely B-Scar.
Hey man, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This question was actually written with the expectation that just hoping
somebody would say
fingers
B-Scar.
crossed, please say me.
I remember last year when I ran into you on the elevator one day before a game. We were at the team hotel and you were playing your music and you had one of your sick fits on, and I was just thinking to myself I think Brennan might have been born in the wrong decade. It was some old school kind of song that you were playing, and I was I think he might have supposed to have been born in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
Just because of like what you had on and the music that you were playing, I was like, he could have just walked out of some sort of movie and
that could have
just
been
been dropped into 2021,
1987 or something. Which actor would you cast to play your part in the TV version of your life?
I'm gonna go with John Krasinski, who plays Jim. He plays Jim in The Office.
Okay.
He's like tall and lanky and kind of goofy, and I feel like I'm tall and lanky and kind of goofy, but like he also just has this sort of dry, sarcastic humor that I just kind of see in myself too. So I think John Krasinski. If you asked me when I was like 10 years old, I would have said Brad Pitt, because I wanted to wear like the cool blue sunglasses that he wore,
like Fight Club style.
Yeah, but the Ocean's movies.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, now it's definitely John Krasinski.
When I think John Krasinski, I get this image of him when he looks at the camera in the office, and it's it's that like just dry, just while what's his boss's name?
Michael.
Yeah, when Michael's doing some dumb shit. I like that though. That's good. And there you have it, folks. Another episode of B-Scar TV. My man Blake Ferguson, aka B, came on and held it down. Y'all go check out After the Snap.
Let's do it.
Share
After the Snap. After the Snap Pod on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
High quality content.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, man.
No doubt.